Bonada, Croeso Gymru. More specifically, welcome to the village of Tremadog in Wynedd. Why am I here? Well, I'm going out on a big adventure today with a couple of friends, and we'll meet them later. And I thought we'd going on an adventure, so I thought I'd invoke the spirit of Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia was born in that house there in 1886, I think it says. I'll check the dates and post them up later. So as we know, T. Lawrence was a keen motorcyclist and rode a Brough Superior, and was also fond of adventure. Well, we're keen in motorcyclists. We're not riding a Brough Superior, as you can see, but we do have a sense of adventure for today. So join us on our travels. I'm off now to head that way. In no time at all, we arrived at our rendezvous point, Starbucks, just outside Dogathlai. There we planned the day's adventure. So I appraised Mark and Dick of where we would be going and what we would be doing. Before then, obviously, coffee. After our usual stop for a natter and a quick coffee, we set off south. We enjoyed the lovely view of a red phone box and enjoyed the lovely sunny weather as we headed south towards the Powys border. What a lovely day it was. We'll soon be at our destination. See you there. So here you can see the intrepid explorers, Mark and Dick, admiring the wonderful new modern scenery and bridge. Hello Dick, are you happy?
This is my happy walk.
After another break for another coffee due to bad weather, we found a reservoir. However, soon enough we were away and off into the middle of nowhere, off on our great adventure. Absolutely fantastic weather, as you can see. We paused for another brief conversation to discuss green lanes, etc., and the fact there was one the other side of the screen, before we set off again. And this time we're hitting the Claerwen Road, our destination. Enjoy as we travel along this marvellous track alongside the reservoir. The reservoirs in this area were all created by industrialists. They're not natural reservoirs really. They are there to supply water to Birmingham. That's not Birmingham, Alabama, that's Birmingham in the West Midlands in England. So the water has to get from these lakes all the in mid Wales all the way to Birmingham. Surprisingly, this is done using gravity. Yep, it's all downhill to Birmingham, everybody, and that's where that water will be going. Surprising really, isn't it? Now this lane carries on for the complete length of the reservoir and carries on further into the distance. However, it has to be noted, and I must stress this, although on the map you can see a lane that carries on from the dam all the way through the reservoir out the other side until it joins a yellow road on the Ordnance Survey map, not all of that is a public right of way. So you cannot just nip along the whole way and go through. Indeed, you are liable to get caught by the people who own the area or by the police. and yeah, you will not be on the right of way for a lot of it. Do look at the map, do check that out, and please make sure, if you do decide to follow this, that you do not enter the non-public right of way. I haven't shown where that starts and finishes on here because I don't really want to draw too much attention to the area that you're not allowed to go on. However, what I would say is we found the edge really easily because there's massive great signage provided, so that you are left in absolutely no doubt that you cannot go any further. But the surface is generally pretty damn good. I mean, as you can see, I'm on a Royal Enfield Bullet. Mark, you'll see in a while, he's on board Himalayan. Both the bikes are on their standard CRF tyres as supplied new. My tyre is wearing quite heavily at the back. My rear tyre's really quite badly worn. It's still well and truly legal, but not great for anything off-road. But coped with no problems whatsoever on this stretch. As you can see, it's not a bad surface at all. Dick's using a CRF250. I did ask him, he's running Mitas ME09s, and of course, for those tyres, this is an absolute piece of cake. It wasn't long before we stopped again because we wanted a natter. So, of course, we stopped and had a chat. We weren't in a hurry, we didn't want to thrash around, we wanted to enjoy the scenery. So, off we went and had yet another discussion, one of many during the day. After a prolonged, totally unnecessary period of self-congratulation and exchanging of admiration for each other's superb abilities, we decided we really ought to get a rig on. So we went and carried on riding. Different order, so I could then take a bit of film showing the prowess of my two colleagues. So you've got Mark just in front of me, disappearing into the distance is Dick on the CRF. Surprisingly, with the Bullet that I'm on, it's just road suspension. It's very short travel, quite firm. The springing is very firm on them. It's not ideal for anything that's off-road at all, really, if I'm honest with myself. But it's good fun. So, yeah, I just had no problems keeping up with the guys. So you can imagine bikes like the Himalayan, this is easy for them, and if I can do it, any bike that's an adventure type bike, as long as it's got reasonable tyres on for mixed conditions, I'd say it should be good. The scenery was absolutely amazing for the day. We had good weather. You heard it was a bit windy just now, but as you can see, the road surface is great. It's not too wet. It was just lovely. A fantastic day. Thoroughly enjoyable. What I would say is I wouldn't advise you using this route if you were to be travelling on, shall we say, a weekend, particularly a bank holiday weekend, but a weekend nonetheless, or particularly during spring, summer and autumn. This area does get very, very busy with visitors, and you will get all sorts of riders. You will get people travelling in both directions, because you obviously have to turn around at the end and come back. So do be aware, if you do come down Claerwen Road, that it can get busy, and realistically, if you want to enjoy the experience of being in an adventure, of being away from civilization, then really a weekend, particularly a bank holiday weekend, is not the ideal time. As you can see, I think we do see a car at one point, or we did see a car parked up at one point, but when I came up earlier, late last year, I met cyclists, I met several motorcyclists, and lots of walkers. It was very busy. The atmosphere was fantastic. Everyone, there was the car I was on about. Everyone was really friendly. Everyone was enjoying themselves. There was no animosity between the different users. Everything was fantastic. But if you want solitude, you pick your times carefully. Now for this day, we travelled independently down to Dolgellau from our homes. We are variously, and in no particular order, based near Harlech, near Abergele, and near Llanberis. We met at Dolgellau, as I said. We rode down into the Himalayan valley. We had a couple of breaks because of the weather. We rode round. Once we finished doing the ride that we wanted to do down in and around the Clan, we then made our way back to our respective homes. We stayed in convoy most of the journey up, and then each of us split off in the different directions. Now, for me, I'd say that worked out at approximately 250 miles for the day, and we were out for about 12 hours. One of the things to bear in mind is that the roads in mid to North Wales are not fast roads. There's not dual carriageways, there's no motorways. So although we're not rushing, and I wouldn't say we were flying around, and you can see from the video we weren't flying along, you do have to allow plenty of time to travel. You will find that you will get lots of farm traffic, slow lorries. There are no major, as they say, dual carriageways or motorways, so it does take you longer than you expect to go between places. We were fully expecting to be out for the 12 hours. That was all part of the plan, and so it came as no surprise to us. But for other people, it may well cause an issue if you weren't expecting it. So just to make you aware of that. Something that I wasn't at all concerned with was fuel. Now, having filled up at Dolgellau, I knew I'd got a good couple of 100 miles clear distance that I could run on the one tank without any real problems. And I knew we'd be riding slow on some of it, so it shouldn't be an issue. However, if you're riding something like the CRF, it is worthwhile knowing that petrol isn't necessarily as freely available as you may think. However, just so that everyone knows, if you're going to Florida, there is a Texaco garage there. Ever so friendly, and they're used to people topping up on the bikes. And indeed, we did have a bit of a scare with Dick's CRF. We've been travelling over 100 miles on the tank, and it had started to run a bit low on the old petrol. So once we'd finished the roads around the Himalayan Valley, before we left, we topped up at Rhyadr. It was just as well, because by that time I think it was running on fumes. However, the Himalayan and me, we were fine. Although I did top up, I thought, oh, that'll be a good idea, I'll just top up while I'm here. It turned out I didn't even need much more than a gallon. I don't even think it was a gallon, actually. It's fantastic. One thing you can say about the Royal Enfields is they're incredibly economical. Very basic, very clunky, very old-fashioned, not very fast, but they don't use much fuel. So there's a bonus there. And with the normal size petrol tank and not using much fuel, it was excellent. I was fine. But do remember, if you're on a bike with a small tank and a limited range, do take heed of the old device, never pass a petrol station. It's well worth making sure you've got plenty of fuel on board. I'd like to just quickly mention is a quick shout out for Mark in front of me here on the Himalayan. He hasn't owned the bike long, hasn't done many miles on it other than to get it through its running in period and get its first service out of the way. Mark hasn't ridden on any surfaces like this before, and so this is a completely new environment for him. So he was questioning at first whether or not I felt he'd be able to cope with it. Having ridden with Mark a few times, I know that he's a very steady chap, very sensible, he's not going to do anything silly, and I had no hesitation saying yes, it will be fine, knowing that we wouldn't be flying around either. And I have to say, one of the things that struck me as I was looking at the original videos is he kept a nice smooth line everywhere. He seemed to take the path of least resistance all the time, whereas, to be fair, I couldn't be bothered and would go through bumps and what have you at various times, purely because I just wanted to just ride and wasn't too worried about finesse as such. Mark certainly concentrated hard and tried to keep the bike in a safer position as possible all the time. And I think credit where credit's due, he certainly did a good job on the day, and I think he deserves a big pat on the back, to be honest, because it was quite a big ask to do several miles down these rough tracks in an environment you've never been before on a bike that's still new to you. So yeah, kudos to Mark. Later in the day, once we'd successfully completed Claerwen Road, I treated Dick and Mark to a quick bash along the Aberystwyth Mountain Road. Sadly, this is by the time when we were starting to think that Dick was running on fumes already, and so we were a little preoccupied, should we say, with trying to get to Rhyadr in one piece without having to shuffle off and try and find fuel cans, etc. Lesson learned there, perhaps, that we should have topped up earlier. But nonetheless, we had a lovely trip up. As you can see from here, there's quite different scenery along the mountain road. It's got plenty of curves and bends and cattle grids as well to keep us busy, a bit of water there. However, don't let this lull you into a false sense of security. You will also find things like errant sheep. It is something to be aware of, that they are here, it's their road, it is their land, and you do have to be a little bit careful of them. particularly this time of year where we have young lambs. They can be quite erratic, to be honest. But yeah, here we are. We're coming along the mountain road, and this is heading, if you like, back to Reda on our way, finishing our day out. And after this, it was just a slog home back the way we came. I have to say, it was a thoroughly enjoyable day. The company was absolutely superb. It was excellent. I think I can say we all enjoyed ourselves, and I'd heartily recommend these roads to anyone who wants to do them during the summer. Fantastic trip, and yeah, good time was had by all. Well, I wasn't even too achy when I got home, which is unusual, so there you go. So I'll leave you for a few minutes with just some more views of the mountain road, and join you a little later. If you enjoy these videos of our trips around Snowdonia, and sometimes a little bit further afield like the ones today, and you want to see more, why not subscribe to my channel, Craig O'Clean. It looks like Craig Y. Clean, but it's pronounced Craig O'Clean. Be really grateful if you'd hit a like on this as well, and why not look at some of my other videos showing some of the well-known and not quite so well-known joys and delights that we have here in Mid and North Wales. It'd be great to join you on a few more little adventures. So don't forget, like and subscribe, and ring that little bell for updates of any new videos. There should be plenty coming this year, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks for joining us on this trip. It's been wonderful for me, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye.